An epic two-night UFC event kicks off tonight with a battle for an historic UFC title. UFC Fight Night, a champion will be crowned, starts next, only on Fox Sports 1.
So guys, Entwistle was actually a pretty good footballer in England. Now I'm not talking about the American kind of football, the European kind, soccer as they call it here in the United States. You know who his hero is? His hero is Michael Bisping. That makes me question him a little bit, I'm not gonna lie.
Well, Mike's certainly not a bad guy, but what do you guys call it in Canada? Do you guys call it football or soccer?
Soccer.
There is one football, American football.
Finally, Anthony Burchak is going to get a shot in the UFC. He was supposed to fight at UFC 177 against Joe Soto. But remember, Henan Barao pulled out of that fight. Soto gets the title shot against Dillashaw, and Burchak is left without an opponent. To add insult to injury, when he comes home from Sacramento, his house has been robbed. All his possessions gone. Good for him, he's getting his shot in 2014.
136.
By the way, Sports Illustrated named one of his photos one of the photos of the year last year when he won a title at MFC.
Nice.
The next fight also takes place in the bantamweight division. Henry Cejudo versus Dustin Kimura.
Guys, Dustin Kimura has won 12 of his 14 fights here, 9 of those coming by way of submission, so we know that this man knows how to work on the ground. He has also finished his opponent in 11 of 12 wins, guys. We got a finisher in our hands.
Also, he's got the greatest name if you want to be a finisher. Your last name is Kimura.
How about
Can't beat that.
136.
How about that Rose Namajunas getting 2 Kimuras in the Ultimate Fighter?
That's right.
Henry Cejudo.
Olympic champion Henry Cejudo. This kid has dealt with adversity his entire life. He up and moved to Colorado in high school, left his family because he wanted to win the Olympics. Henry Cejudo in 2007, Azerbaijan. 2007 in Azerbaijan, this guy lost in the very first round of the World Championships, was last in his division. 11 months later, he stood on top of the Olympic podium as a gold medalist. This guy deals well with adversity.
The next fight also takes place on Fight Pass, and it's in the lightweight division. David Michaud versus Garrett Whiteley.
You know, Garrett Whiteley is still a member of the Indiana National Guard. In fact, he actually started mixed martial arts when he came back from a combat tour to help him deal with post-traumatic stress after returning back from combat. And now he's so well-rounded, Daniel. Get this. When you look at his offensive output, he's 33% in all 3 areas that they list, both in submissions, wrestling, and striking. Not bad.
156.
He's got that nice square head like you, Stan.
His opponent, David Michaud.
So Michaud about to make his lightweight debut tomorrow night. He made his MMA debut when he was 15 years old at the world-famous Sturgis Rally, but he is one of my favorite fighters in the UFC. Why? Because he has a degree in journalism. And he's currently a journalist as well. This is a smart man. This is a man that knows that it's important to be a journalist. We need journalists.
155.
Ariel, all I thought you needed to be a journalist was a Twitter account.
These days, yes.
Sean and Garrett Whiteley, ladies and gentlemen. The next fights take place on the Fox Sports 1 prelims, and we kick it off in the lightweight division. Joe Ellenberger versus Ryan Barberina.
Guys, Brian is coming in hot. He has won his last 6 fights in a row. Got a lot of momentum working on there. 7 of his wins have come by knockout, and he has finished his opponent in 8 of his 9 wins. Of course, tomorrow night he will be making his UFC debut against Jake Ellenberger's twin brother, Joe.
Also one of 4 lab members on this card, the Arizona-based team. You see John Crouch there, who in my opinion is one of the most underrated coaches. I know, Brian, you agree with that as well.
155.
Agree 100% on John Crouch. I think he's one of the best coaches in MMA today.
His opponent, Joe Ellenberger.
You know, we always throw out there overcoming adversity. Well, Joe Ellenberger was actually told in 2009 that he had 5 years to live when he was diagnosed with a very rare disease. In that 5 years, he not only did he beat the disease and overcome it, he's had 2 amazing children, and he won his UFC debut, a fight I had the privilege to call against James Montessori, an incredible showcase of heart where he lost in the first round, was nearly finished in that first round, came back, incredible performance. The fans absolutely loved it, and I'm excited to see him fight again.
156.
Yeah, that fight was awesome.
One of 16 pairs of siblings who have fought in the UFC, the Ellenbergers, by the way.
Joe Ellenberger and Brian Barberina, ladies and gentlemen. The next fight takes place in the middleweight division. Ed Short Fuse Herman versus Derek Brunson.
Derek Brunson is such a great athlete. He was a cheerleader in college. He was a wrestling All-American. When Derek Brunson first signed with Strikeforce, he let out a highlight video. He was so impressive that Luke Rockhold immediately started training for this guy who had never fought in Strikeforce. To this day, he will not admit that Derek Brunson had become his biggest nightmare. You watch Derek Brunson, he has the ability to take guys down and stifle them. Pure athlete, this guy is an amazing athlete, and he's the selfie king.
185 from Mr. Brunson. And his opponent, Ed Short Fuse Herman.
Ed Herman, a true veteran of the sport. He's actually had the longest continual UFC career of anybody on the card. 11-year veteran in mixed martial arts. Started training back in the days when Team Quest had Dan Henderson, Randy Couture, and Matt Lindland all coaching and training in the same gym. In fact, he was the runner-up in Season 3 of The Ultimate Fighter, but he's the only guy from that weight class on Season 3 to still be under contract with the UFC.
That's right, this is his 17th UFC fight. Nice hair.
186 for Short Fuse. Derek Brunson and Ed Herman, ladies and gentlemen.
Derek loves Brian Stan, by the way. Speaks very highly of him.
Next fight takes
Everybody
place
speaks
in the
highly of Brian
lightweight
Stan. Come on.
division. Jamie Varner versus Drew Dober.
Drew Dober, he's a self-proclaimed nerd. He said he fell in love with Japanese anime, and then all of a sudden, he got really into strength and conditioning. He made his professional debut after an undefeated amateur career. In the same week, he got evicted from his home, had to couch hop, and took on random jobs.
156.
The most random job was that his morning started at 2 a.m. at the bakery. He said he cooked all night and chewed gum because all he wanted to do was eat the donuts.
They love him here. The pride of Deer Valley High School in Glendale, Arizona. This is Varner's first fight in his home state since WEC 53, the final WEC card, and he lost that fight to Shane Roller and did not get called into the UFC. Remember, that was devastating for him. But of course, he is back in the UFC now, and he's coming off that devastating ankle injury against James Krause. He wanted to keep fighting, which was pretty amazing. That ankle was just dangling.
156.
Recently opened up his own gym here in Arizona. He seems to be in a great spot, but he understands that he needs a win here. He definitely needs a win.
When Jamie Varner is hot, he is as fun to watch as anybody on the roster.
And Jamie Varner, ladies and gentlemen. The next fight takes place in the welterweight division. Joe Diesel Rakes versus Ben Killer B. Saunders.
An epic two-night UFC event kicks off tonight with a battle for an historic UFC title. UFC Fight Night, a champion will be crowned, starts next only on Fox Sports 1.
We've seen Ben Saunders, Killer B as he likes to be called, go all around to make sure that he got back into the UFC. And when he got back into the UFC, what a statement. He's been fighting great, and what an omoplata submission that he pulled off in his last fight. Ben Saunders has long been one of the better fighters in this division. He's fought some of the best guys that the division has to offer, and it's great to see a guy back, and hopefully he'll finish his career in the UFC.
170 for Killer B. And his opponent, Joe Diesel Rakes.
Well, this is one of the true feel-good stories on this card. Joe Rakes returns to the UFC for the first time since 2006. He is streaking. He has won his last 6 in a row, but he didn't know if he'd get here. Remember, back in September, he was taking apart his firearm and accidentally shot himself. Went through his hand and leg. He actually told his wife to bring his son to him so he could say goodbye because he thought he was going to die.
No comment.
Joe Rakes has been around the block, and this is a big deal for him. He said that he can... He said that he was ready to fight sooner, but he wanted to fight in Arizona. As you see here, maybe a little bit of trouble making the weight. They're breaking out that towel. Everyone's looking away. Joe Rakes trying to hit the mark.
171. 171.
171 for Mr. Rakes.
And he does just that.
That would have been a huge disappointment for him in his return. Thank goodness he made that weight.
And the fans appreciate it.
Absolutely.
They want to see Joe Rakes fight. They want to see him have success.
And by the way, when people at home see us fighters breathing out on the scale, wondering if that has any effect, I do not believe it has any at all.
But you want to believe that it does.
You do.
Brian DC told me that if you do a handstand before you get on the scale, that you'll be lighter.
I've shaved my hair before.
The next fight takes place in the flyweight division. John Moraga versus Willie Gates.
A lot of times you get a guy taking a fight on short notice. They aren't very experienced. Willie Gates is not that guy. He's a Tachi Palace champion. He's a Gladiator Challenge champion. And if there's one thing that stands out about him above all, is that he's very, very tall for this division. He's 5'10". He likes to box. He can be a little sporadic at times, but if he can keep Moraga off of his legs, if he can keep him at distance, he can actually have a chance in this fight. This guy is not coming here to lose this fight. Willie Gates believes that he can beat John Moraga. I'm sorry.
Big power in his hands. One of the other things he's got to avoid is that dangerous guillotine possessed by John Moraga.
And honestly, he does not have the best wrestling base, but his length could keep him off at distance.
Guys, in addition to what you said about him being tall, DC, he's going to go in there with a 6-inch reach advantage as well.
126.
Selfishly, I'm going to tell you, reach doesn't matter.
Keep on believing that, DC.
John Moraga.
Isn't that something, man? He's able to bring his child out there with him to make this walk. Huge moment for John Moraga. You know, DC, you were talking a little bit about John Moraga's wrestling, how it's a key to this fight. A lot of times we hear that Moraga is a 2-time All-American, but there's a distinction. He's a 2-time University Freestyle All-American, which is very different than being a NCAA All-American. The level is not the same.
It isn't, but the thing about John bringing his son out here with him is because he takes him to the gym because he has to watch his kid during the day, so it's great that they can experience this part of it together too.
126 from Mr. Moraga.
It's a beautiful thing. His son is actually one of the reasons why he became a fighter. He felt like he had to do it once he became a dad.
Continually evolving, too. He's getting more and more dangerous. He was thrown in there early into a title fight. He's continued to evolve since then.
Willie Gates and John Moraga, ladies and gentlemen. The next fight takes place in the women's strawweight division. Claudia Capella versus Joanna Jędrzejczyk.
Joanna Jędrzejczyk. Remember the name, guys, the pride of Poland. And you know who's a big fan of Joanna's? Dana White. After her debut in July, he actually called her into his office and was glowing about her on Twitter. So now here's the deal about this fight. Of course, we all know strawweight title on the line for the very first time tonight on Fox Sports 1. the consensus is the winner of this fight will fight the winner of the Namajunas Esparza fight. So this is a massive fight in that division, and both of these women, Miocic and Gadelha, certainly deserve to be in that talk. They're both undefeated. 100 Muay Thai fights.
116.
He's also trained with Ernesto Hus, the legendary kickboxer.
And her opponent,
Claudia Gadelha has trained at our gym at the American Kickboxing Academy. And when she came in, people kept glowing about her jiu-jitsu and saying, man, this girl can grapple. This girl's a world champion in Brazilian jiu-jitsu. She can do it all. She can do it all. But I was very impressed with her stand-up and actually her ability to actually stand in there and trade. Most times you get a jiu-jitsu fighter and they want to get the fight to the ground immediately. Claudia was standing with a girl on our team that is a boxing world champion right now, and she was holding her own. When it got to the ground, much different story. But on the feet, Claudia was actually able to stand with a boxing world champion right now.
116.
And she looks ripped right now, but wait until tomorrow night when she fills out. She has to be one of the biggest fighters in this division.
Whoa, look at that. That is intense. No love lost.
Intensity right there.
I love it.
It's a very important fight, and you can see right there.
#1 contender.
Oh, that's just awesome, folks. Here we go down the final stretch. Just 4 more fights to go, starting with a heavyweight tilt between Gabriel Gonzaga and Matt Mitrione to kick off the main card on Fox. The fighter formerly known as Meathead up first.
Gabriel Gonzaga versus Matt Mitrione.
There he is. Everyone's favorite meathead. He appears to be in a great place in his life, which is really good to see because Matt Mitrione has been through a lot over the last few years. He gave me a great quote yesterday. He said, "It's remarkable how easy life can be once you stop being an ignorant fool." Wise words from Mr. Meathead.
You gotta love this guy.
259. 259 from Mitrione.
Nice pose.
And his opponent, Gabriel "The Pound" Gonzaga.
You know, we throw the term finisher out there with a lot of guys, but this is truly a finisher. All 16 of his wins are via finish. He's got 9 submissions, 7 KOs. In fact, in his 24 fights, he's only gone the distance 2 times. So do not expect guys with the heavy hands and the submissions of Nepal, do not expect these two to go the distance tomorrow night.
And you know, Mitrione has called him a bit of a Jekyll and Hyde fighter. So I'm curious to see how he shows up tomorrow. What do you want to say, DC? I know you're very upset. Okay.
256.
Guys, as a fighter, do not put your hand on your corner to take your shoes and socks off. You've got to be able to move a little bit better than that, Stan.
Mitrione and Gabriel Gonzaga, ladies and gentlemen.
That's the first time I've heard that rule, DC, but I'll keep it in mind.
And especially for the big guys, they shouldn't be weaker than anything like that, right? They haven't been cutting weight.
Overeem versus Stefan Struve.
What a great sight this is. Stefan Struve, he has been through so much. Of course, a lot of people thought he would never fight again. Diagnosed with a leaking aortic valve and enlarged heart, came back from that, collapsed backstage before his fight in July, didn't get the fight against Matt Mitrione. Now here he is feeling great and ready to resume his career.
254 for Skyscraper.
Just 26 years old, he has a lot of fighting left.
And let's not forget, he knocked out Tp Miocic, the man who was fighting in our main event.
All right, guys, in my opinion, this is the fighter with the most pressure coming in tomorrow night. He was one of the highest touted prospects outside of the UFC for years. He was a K1 2010 Grand Prix champion, which means he was the best kickboxer on the planet. 37 victories in MMA, 34 of them via finish, but he has had mixed results. He has got to get a win tomorrow night.
253 for the ring.
Jones versus Belfort. I'm standing in the lobby, me and Kane. Reem grabbed me by the arm. I was still a heavyweight. On that day, I decided that was probably going to go down to 205 pounds. That's how big he was. He left Kane alone, and he actually grabbed me by my arm.
Two Dutchmen, by the way.
Next fight is the co-main event of the evening in the lightweight division. Rafael Dos Anjos versus Nate Diaz.
When you have a brother like Nick Diaz, sometimes you get lost. Nate Diaz does not deserve to get lost. He has won the Ultimate Fighter. He has fought for the UFC Championship. And every time he gets in the cage, Nate Diaz brings it. He avenged his loss to Gray Maynard last time in spectacular fashion. This is a guy that is getting better with time.
And this is another test. He's climbed to the top of the 155-pound ladder before, come up a little short. He's shown flashes of brilliance, and tomorrow night he has a major opportunity to leapfrog a whole lot of contenders in the 155-pound division.
160.6.
Didn't seem to bother him at all either.
Well, this must have been agreed on or something. Something had to be worked out in advance for him to be that heavy.
Well, obviously you see Joe Silva talking to Nick Diaz, and this is a long time since we've seen Nate Diaz fighting in there, so that's obviously a pretty big development. You know, Dos Anjos may be the most underappreciated guy at 155. He's not even in the video game. But he says, I am better than Nate Diaz everywhere, and he's going to prove that he's the #1 contender tomorrow. That's what he says.
156.
So RDA makes the weight. That's a big part of this game.
You gotta imagine Rafael Dos Anjos is upset when someone comes in 5 pounds overweight.
How do you, as a competitor, you cannot do that to your opponent. You own the respect to actually make the weight.
Look at the two men involved in the main event of the evening.
I'm gonna beat him and get my title shot again.
Big shot.
When I win this fight, I'm gonna fight for a title.
Junior Dos Santos versus Tp Miocic is, without a doubt, a fight for the #1 contender position. What you see from Junior Dos Santos is boxing.
Everybody knows my boxing skills. I'm a knockout guy.
He's the former UFC heavyweight champion.
Junior Dos Santos is the new UFC heavyweight champion of the world.
I really believe I can knock out anyone in the world. Doesn't matter who you are.
Junior is the elite of the elite, but Stipe Miocic is a stiff test for anyone in the UFC's heavyweight division.
Stipe is going off here.
The matchup between me and JDS is, I think, it's a great matchup. It's straight for a war. You know, we both like to throw, we both like to hit hard.
What we've seen from Stipe Miocic is improvement in all areas of his mixed martial arts game.
I've gotten better every fight tremendously.
And that is going to be an important factor in his fight against Junior Dos Santos.
I'm better than him. I have a better strategy.
Junior Dos Santos trying to finish this fight.
Not just trying to knock people out, but trying to win the fight.
If it's on my feet, it's on the ground, conditioning, I'm gonna beat him every aspect of the game. He doesn't know what hit him.
Miocic, you know, he likes to talk a lot.
He's ready. It's my time.
Here we go, ladies and gentlemen, the main event of the evening. Introducing Stipe Miocic.
And Miocic is such an athlete. We've heard about his baseball career. He's actually looked at to be a professional. He wrestled in college as well, and now he's a world-class mixed martial artist. But he's talked about his wrestling ability for this fight.
243.
The issue is, though, he actually has a low takedown percentage, his accuracy, while Junior Santos is 76% defending those takedowns.
Junior Dos Santos.
This guy right here, Junior Dos Santos, I gained more respect for him in his losses to Cain Velasquez than any guy that I've seen compete in the octagon. This dude is a champion through and through. He will never give up on himself. He's always trying to gain the victory. Call him 1A, call him number 2. Call this guy a champion. Junior Dos Santos has big power, he has great boxing, and he has a champion's will and desire to win that is unmatched in the UFC.
Switched up camps, too, went down in Nova União there in Rio de Janeiro to train under Andre Pedneras for this fight, too.
242. Outstanding heavyweight action, ladies and gentlemen. Tp Miocic and Junior Dos Santos. That is our card, and we will see you tomorrow night. Thank you very much for coming out.
All right, thank you very much, Joe.